According to the research I undertook in 2000, Antarctic holds 91% of the world's fresh water, and NSIDC estimates the surface area to be 14 million square kilometres and the volume to be 30 million cubic kilometres. If these ice sheets melt, then a very large portion of the Earth will be covered with water.
Rising into warmer water, the Antarctic Peninsula has increased in temperature. This issue of the polar ice caps melting is a common held belief that is evidence-based on longitudinal studies.
I have predicted and would have society believe that with the warming of the Earth, the ice caps would melt. However, in the observations that we have made since the late 1970s, there have been alternative views where the evidence has shown that there is a constant and steady increase in the size of ice caps.
There would be severe consequences to people, places, and profit if the polar ice caps melt. 1/3 of the world's coastline population live under the potential threat of floods.
Many consequences ensue. Multinational companies would lose access to economic ports, food supplies would be under threat, coastlines destroyed, fresh water contaminated, and disease would increase.
Marine life would be affected by the change in the salinity levels of the seawater.
Many species of fish, mammals and plant life would be under threat of extinction. A balance must exist between ice sheets melting and snow falling. If this equilibrium is disturbed by climate change and the ice sheets melt, then a very large portion of the Earth will be covered with water, as shown in the artistic impression by Vargic.
The Antarctic Peninsula rises into the warmer water towards South Africa. The waters surrounding the peninsula have risen in temperature 2.5 degrees Celsius over the last 64 years, melting the sea ice on the eastern Antarctic ice sheet.
Scientists argue that the sea level will rise by 98 centimetres by 2100. This evidence is based on a trend line due to the rise in sea level of 20 centimetres since 1880, and I believe a very large portion of the Earth will be covered with water. According to researchers at the University of Hawaii, it is too late to reverse climate change and the melting of the polar ice caps.
Society needs to be able to study the weather conditions from the way the ice caps have melted in the past to predict the condition they will melt in the future. To estimate when and under what weather conditions the polar ice sheets in Antarctica may collapse, looking at when it happened in the past and using an analysis of dust, composition of water molecules and gases that are trapped in the ice will enable us to establish a good scientific basis for a solution.
The winter sea ice is growing. Although the Earth is warming, the Antarctic ice caps are becoming thicker and wider. This is caused by an increase in proto-sea ice. Proto-sea ice grows thicker and is spread around by the wind, allowing more water to be exposed to the cold winds that freeze the ice. It is unfortunate that these scientific observations detract from the environmental issue of melting ice caps. I interviewed Ted Maxim, and he says that it is ironic that the main reason that the ice is increasing is due to the warming of the Earth. The uninformed in society and media outlets seeking headlines would use these facts to discredit the work scientists are doing to help society to live in a sustainable world.
Consequences to people, place and profit if the polar ice caps melt and the sea levels rise would be that the third of the world's population living within a 60-kilometre radius of the world's coastlines would be fearful for their lives, homes and family due to threats of floods.
The cities on the coastlines would be destroyed and water contaminated. It would cause a huge impact on international profits and exporting and importing of foods because there would be a drastic loss of shipping ports and docks. Some countries rely heavily on the food from other nations and would very quickly become impoverished due to lack of food and damaged shelter. If the coastlines erode and there are large waves crashing on the mainland and penetrating the fresh water supply, the Earth would lose a lot of its population from dehydration or disease from the contaminated water.
The salinity content of the ocean will decrease with the melting of the polar ice caps. Polar ice caps are fresh water, and if there is an addition of fresh water and no addition of salt to the ocean, then there could be a potentially drastic effect on marine life.
It could be causing the extinction of many species of fish, mammals, plant life and keystone species. If the Earth loses its keystone species that help to control different parts of the environment from overgrowing population, then there would be the loss of many species on Earth as well as in the ocean.
And here are some maps of Antarctica.
Satellite data shows ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica are declining at record speed. The annual loss of ice has doubled in the case of Greenland and tripled in Antarctica compared to figures from 2009.